I read a crazy stat the other day, and it was that 45% of men from the ages of 20 to 30 have never asked a woman out before. And I just found that to be crazy when I read it. But then I took a second and I really thought about it. And I was like, it's not that crazy. And the reason why I thought and remembered that it wasn't that crazy is because I've ran into women that have told me they've never been on a date before. And I found that to be crazy when they told me that. I was like, ain't no way. You've never been on a date before. You ain't never been out to ice cream. A dude has never asked you out for ice cream. He's never asked you out to dinner. He's never asked you out to the movies. I just found that to be so crazy that, that there's women out here that have never been on a date before. And I'm not just talking about the hurt women. I'm talking about beautiful women. I'm talking about good looking women that have never been on a date before. That is just so crazy to me. I've been dating since I was a teen. Man, I used to take my little shorty to the movies when I was like 14. I remember I went to see Nacho Libre. I think that's with Jack Black. When I was a youngster, I took a girl to see one of the early Pirates of the Caribbeans when I was a youngster. Like, I used to go on dates. I used to ask girls out, so that's just so strange to me that a woman could be like 30 or be in her late 20s and has never been on a date before. But I can totally understand why, though. Today, men really lack those communication abilities. We have so much of a reliance upon dating apps today. And that's not just men, that's women as well. Because a dating app allows you to hide yourself. It allows you to not really show somebody who you are. You're never in a situation where you really have to show your charisma. You're never really in a situation where you have to show your personality. In a dating app or in text messages, you can hide all that. I've plenty of times I have met women and I've asked them about their previous dating life, and I just try to get an understanding. I'm inquisitive. I like to learn. So I'll ask women about other men, and I'll ask them, about how their last date was, and they'll tell me that it wasn't that good, and the guy really had no personality. He was scared. He didn't really say much. But when you ask them how it was texting them, they'll say that they had pretty good conversation in texting. And that's because it's different when you actually meet somebody and you actually have to perform and actually have to show them who you are. A lot of people are also using these AI apps to help them in conversations. I know people that have used ChatGPT to help them in conversations, or how they should reply to a woman, or what they should say to a woman. Now, when you meet somebody in person, you don't have that ability to whip out your phone and say, hey, she said this, how should I respond? You got to be genuine and authentic in the moment when you meet somebody in person. So I can see why men struggle with that, because they haven't been in situations where they really had to talk to women, or where they really had to have the confidence to engage in conversation with a woman that they don't know. Which is why I sometimes, even if I'm dealing with rejection, I'll get out there and talk to a woman because it sharpens my skills. It sharpens, you need those tools to be sharpened. If you don't practice talking to women, you'll never have the confidence when that time comes, because it is a skill. It's an art form of being able to be charismatic and have smooth conversation with a woman. It's to a point of where you're intriguing to them, or where they gain some curiosity about you. That is a skill. And if it's something that you don't do a lot, you're going to struggle when that time arises. So we need to get out there more, talk more, engage with women more. So it's not surprising that, men have not been asking out women. And another reason I think that attributes to this is the idea of perfectionism. I think a lot of men feel like they need to have their life completely together before they can introduce a woman to their life, or before they can bring a woman in. They have to be making a certain amount of money. They have to have a certain type of car. They have to be living in a certain kind of place before they feel like they can ask a woman out, or they feel like they can date a woman. And if your life needs to be perfect, or you need to have everything together in order to like get a woman, then that woman is not for you. If she's expecting all that from you, then she's not the one, man. She's not the one. You know what I mean? I dated women that knew I was going somewhere, but in that moment I maybe had a busted vehicle, or, you know, I didn't have it all together at that time. Shit, my ex bailed me out of jail before a couple times, you know. So if a woman ain't with you from those levels, then she ain't the one. She ain't the one. I want a woman that's been with me on my level up. You know, I want a woman that's been with me on my incline. Not a woman that's, you know, with me when I've already made it to the destination, when I'm already at the finish line, you know, so now she's just reaping my rewards. Nah, I want her to be with me through those struggles. Or I want a woman to at least see me that I'm not fully where I'm going, but she understands the mission. She understands the goal. You know, that's the kind of woman that I want. I want a woman that's been with me through, you know, maybe challenging times, or when not super challenging. I ain't talking about where you're broke, busted, and disgusted, and you out damn near on the streets. I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about a woman that sees your vision, that knows that you're moving up in life, that you're headed somewhere, you know, and she can see that in you. That's the type of woman that you want, you know. So you don't have to have your life fully together, but most men feel like they do. So they'll never engage with the idea of dating a woman until they feel comfortable. But the thing is, will you ever really feel comfortable? You're just using it as a crutch, or as an excuse not to ask a woman out, or as an excuse of not to put yourself in a situation where you're vulnerable and you have to perform. You know, some men are afraid of actually performing. They feel like they'll fold under pressure. You know, but pressure makes diamonds, man. You know, so I don't know what to tell you, but your life doesn't need to be fully together in order to start engaging in conversation with women or dating women. And that leads me to the next reason. I feel like men are not asking out women, and it is the fear of rejection, or the fear of embarrassment. You know, a lot of men are afraid of getting turned down in public. You know, it is something that they don't want to have to deal with, that kind of embarrassment. But I'll tell you, you can decrease that embarrassment depending on how you approach women. You know, to save myself from embarrassment, heartache, and just feeling stupid approaching these women, I kind of do it differently today. I do it in a way where it's subtle. I'm asking them if they're single. I'm asking them if they're interested in me, all in one. I'll go up to a woman and I'll ask her, you know, I'll say something funny, or say something that's, you know, commending her on something, or saying something that I like about her. Oh, I love your dress. I love, you know, your earrings, or I love your nails. I'm a big nail guy. I love nails. So I look at like little details. I like little details like that. So I'll say, oh, I love your nails. It's the opener. It allows me to, you know, to tear down her walls a little bit and engage in conversation. You know, and then at some point I'll ask her like, yo, where your boyfriend at? I know your boyfriend isn't cool with you coming out here looking this beautiful. And depending on how she answers that question, will tell you everything you need to know. She's either going to say, I don't have a man. And depending on how she says that, can also tell you if she's interested in you. And if she says she has a man, or, you know, then you know that, oh, he's a lucky man. And then I can easily, gracefully step away. Like, oh, lucky man. He's a lucky man. You're very beautiful. Leave it at that. You got your dignity still. You're not feeling embarrassed. You don't feel stupid. So I usually ask that question, like, oh, where's your man at? And they'll let you know what it is in the way that they respond to that. So give it a try. Um, it is an easier way to deal with rejection when you do it that way, because it allows you to bow out gracefully rather than this whole awkward scene and you feeling embarrassed and everybody looking at you, or you feeling like everybody's looking at you, because really nobody's caring like that. But it allows you to still have your ego intact, your confidence intact, and it allows you to move on to the next woman. So give it a try. It may work out for you. But yeah, I would say most of these are the reasons why men are not asking women out. So if we can just work on our confidence, our self-esteem, and figure out a way to approach women in a way that we're not intimidated, then I think we'll see more success. We'll have more success as it pertains to dating, because relying on dating apps is just not the move. It's not the wave. It's not the move. So get out there and approach women, and women, be nice to us. Don't hurt our feelings. Don't try to embarrass us. Let us down nicely, softly. But I thank you guys. I thank you guys for checking out this video. If you guys got a comment or something to say, whether you disagree or you agree, leave a comment. And please like and please subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate you guys. I thank you guys for, taking your time out of the day to spend it with me. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you chose to be here with me, and I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm gonna have more videos on the way per usual. I'll catch you guys in the next one. I'm out.